warm welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. My name is Horst Lüning. I'm the senior taster of Whisky.com, and today we have a old relative but also a new expression here in my cask. I never had that before, and this is the Macallan Double Cask, 12 years old, 40% ABV, uncolored at a price of 89 euros and 90 cents. Depending on the country you order from, there might be 1, 2 or 3 euros alcohol tax on top of that, but it's roughly at 90 euros. And this bottle is cheaper than the Macallan 12-year-old sherry cask. This is the old style, which is on the market since I started to taste whiskey here in front of the camera. So in the late 90s, there had been only one Macallan 12 years old sherry cask. And that was accompanied by an 18-year-old, which was very, very low in quantities. And that's it. Then the demand, especially from Asia, grew extremely over the years, and they had to add more whiskey or to sell more whiskey, to deliver more whiskey, but there hadn't been enough from the sherry casks. And at those years, they were still producing malt whiskey from ex-bourbon casks for the blended whiskey industry. In especially, I think it had been Famous Grouse, which belonged to the Errington Group, which belonged to the Robertson Trust. And so this Famous Grouse was contained Macallan ex-bourbon cask whiskies. So they, I think, de-invested the Famous Grouse shortly afterwards, and now they had this maturing ex-bourbon cask whiskey available, and so they decided to have another bottling where they mix those two casks, ex-bourbon casks and ex-sherry cask whiskies. No finishing, no separately matured and then mixed together to have a lighter style, and that sold very well in Asia, and it came as well on the European market, but it didn't sell here as well because people liked the old style of the 12-year-old, and so prices went up for the 12-year-old a lot. And I think today the regular 12-year-old is around 90 euros, and this is 2.5-fold the old price we had before. So over the years, the decades, the prices went up due to the high demand. And then Macallan thought about, well, we have to reactivate our old still house. So they had an old still house from the very old years. They had 4, 6, 8 stills in that. Then they shut that down and activated the new one with, I think, 28 small stills in it. Then they reactivated the old to increase capacity. And then a few years ago, I think 10 years ago, might be, they started their new distillery. Very fancy building, lawn roofs on top, and very sophisticated and well-looking inside. But they kept to the old technology so that the spirit still tastes the same. And with this higher output of the distillery, they are now able to deliver more malt whiskey, single malt whiskey to the market, but there's still a lack of these old European sherry casks. And so they decided to have American white oak sherry casks, which are cheaper because the operations in the US for American white oak casks are so big and so hefty that today it's said that 80% of the sherry casks in Scotland are from American white oak. So they have the American white oak sherry cask and the classic European oak sherry cask, and they mix those whiskies together. I don't know how the percentage of both whiskies are, no idea, but there's from both in, and this is uncolored, and this is a little bit lighter than the original sherry cask whiskey. So this one is 10 euros less in price, and this helps, or the lower price of those American sherry cask helps keeping the price of this whiskey low. Yeah, then they say it is a seasoned casks. That means they are refilled with sherry now and then to keep the flavor of the cask up to the sherry level which they need. So they are selling so much whiskey that the supply of sherry casks from Jerez, from the south of Spain, isn't enough. So sherry is declining in volume from year to year, and whiskey is going up from year to year, so there is a gap in between, and this gap is filled with seasoning of those casks. Yeah, that's it. We have to live with it. Otherwise, you have to drink more sherry. But I like the whiskey more than sherry. Here you can see there is a seal on it. There had been a time where a lot of the Macallan, not a lot, there had been Macallan's fakes on the market, and then they had to decide how to counteract to these fakes, and they added these holograms for keeping it safe. So there is a screw cap and a cork, and the screw cap helps to protect it as well, because you aren't able to push the screw cap in again. So there is this gap still there, but the cork is tight as it can be. But this is a security measure as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this is one of my really favorites, belonging to the top 10 of my whiskeys, top 5. This is really, really what I like. A Speyside single malt whiskey with a hefty sherry cask influence. Wonderful. And you have this orange flavor, orange citrus note on top, which is very typical for Macallan. And then a light sweet note in the back, vanilla, some ripe red apples, and already a little bit of oakiness. Yeah, cheers. Mm-hmm. Wow, very intense for a whiskey with only 40% ABV. And oakiness in your mouth, slight chocolate, dark chocolate note in the aftertaste. The orange is getting sweeter. Yeah, and then it turns over to dryness. So it's a mixture of this oakiness and the distillery character with his oranges, and then you have these resins and a light honey note, resins from the sherry casks, the honey note probably from the distillery character, and quite spicy, and in the aftertaste very friendly. No bitterness in the aftertaste, oakiness, spicy oakiness in the aftertaste. This is for 40% ABV, a very intense, voluminous whiskey, mouth-filling and rewarding everything. Yeah. Yeah, Macallan, one of the distilleries which is over the centuries. I think they have the 200-year anniversary this year, as most of the distilleries have, because the legalization took place in 1824. So this is a wonderful piece of work. Macallan once told the Rolls-Royce among the single malt whiskies. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned. There's more to come.